to feel this is their year. They must be playing defensive. Schmeichel's not coming up for this one. Thinks he's done enough. Is this their moment? Into Sheringham, and Solskjaer has won it! Manchester United have reached the promised land. Oli Solskjaer, 2 substitutes, have scored the 2 goals in stoppage time. 4, and the treble looms large.
1. Hello and welcome to the United Community Channel, and we're back with another afternoon news show, and it's not a good one. I won't lie, it is not going to be a good one in relation to Manchester United. Obviously, the major breaking news over the last 24 hours have been in relation to the potential new owners of Manchester United and some potential bids that are coming in. And as anybody that's watching on YouTube can see on the screen, the main talking point over the last 24 hours is in relation to the Jim Ratcliff bid and the fact that the Glazers could retain a stake in Manchester United if Jim Ratcliff is the successful bidder for Manchester United. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into it. Of course, get your thoughts and comments in. We're going to talk about a potential new striker as well coming in. And we'll also talk about some maybe potential outgoings for Manchester United. But of course, the main talking point, guys, is this report. Anybody, like I said, that's watching on YouTube can see the report on the screen. And the Glazers could retain Manchester United's stake if Jim Ratcliffe is successful for the bid for Manchester United. So basically what it says is Joel and Avram Glazer could remain stakeholders at Manchester United under the deal being proposed by new owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe, according to reports. It has been reported that one of the options on the table for the American owners would see Ratcliffe take a controlling stake of more than 50%, with the two Glazers retaining a combined 20% in the club. So look, I mean, it's not good news, really, isn't it? In relation to what we were hoping for and what we were expecting, really, it's really not good news. And I think pretty much straight away there was a massive outcry from Manchester United fans and the Manchester United community in general in relation to the Glazers staying on. Now, look, if Sir Jim Ratcliffe is successful in his bid and he becomes the new owner of Manchester United, technically he would, be the majority shareholder, and he would be in charge of the everyday business of Manchester United, the redevelopment of the stadium, improving the training ground, buying players, all of these kind of things. The Glazers would maintain a 20% stake. Now, that 20% stake would be split between Avram and Joel Glazer, meaning they would have 10% each. Now, I suppose first off, on the off, you would think as, a Manchester United fan that, okay, it's effectively saying that the Glazers won't have any power at Manchester United anymore and that we're still going to be run by Jim Ratcliffe, new ownership. And technically that would be true. But I don't think any Manchester United fan in their right mind wants the Glazers to remain at Old Trafford in any capacity whatsoever. I really don't. I think it's important that they're gone. It's important that we wipe our hands clean from them and that we move on. And because it's been too long now and we know what they've been doing. We know, what they've done to the club down throughout the years. And we can see the decline in Manchester United ever since they took over. What really ilks me more than anything else is that if they were to take over, if Sir Jim Ratcliffe were to take over and the Glazers were to remain, the Glazers would still be able to take their dividends out of the club every year, and that just, for me, is a complete and utter no-no. It really is. It's a complete and utter no-no. They've taken enough out of Manchester United already. I think for them to stay in any capacity whatsoever would be a complete and utter failure by, I suppose, it would be a failure first and foremost by the Qataris because they would be, the losing bid. But I think the fans themselves would see it as a failure that, the pressure and the protest, which we'll get onto in a moment, have been, have gone on deaf ears, So, and talking about the fans then, this was also reported. Manchester United fans infuriated by Sir Jim Ratcliffe's latest takeover plans. And it says here, off the bat straight away, it is clear from the latest updates surrounding Sir Jim Ratcliffe's quest to buy Manchester United that he doesn't understand the fans. So, basically, let's just go read down through, because there's some interesting things here. I'm also questioning how the Daily Mail keeps getting all of these scoops when all bidders have agreed to sign non-disclosure acts. However, Mike Keegan shouldn't be questioned as a journalist. So basically, this story came from Mike Keegan, and the questions here are around, well, if a non-disclosure agreement was signed, basically that we will not, by law, we are not allowed to make public what our bid is, how much it is, how much we want in the club, blah, 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 so on and so forth. So there are some kind of discrepancies that are coming out saying, well, where are these journalists getting this information from? Now, Mike Keegan has been hit and miss when it comes to, reports on Manchester United and the takeover specifically. I wouldn't put him up there as a tier 1 journalist. I really wouldn't. But obviously, we're just doing news shows in relation to what we're, the reports that are out. Oshin says, Glazers out is the only way. Get him out of our club. 10% each is 10% too much. Completely agree with you there, Oshin. So look, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that, that the fans don't want this to happen. They really don't. And I think, let me just scroll down here. So United fans are eager to see an end to the Glazer era, which is approaching 18 years. Hence why the 1958 organised another big protest prior to the Aston Villa game on Sunday. Exactly. So basically what's going on is, obviously, there's a major protest happening again on Sunday before the Aston Villa game. I think it's 11 a.m. Supporters have been asked by the 1958 to meet outside Dean's Gate and obviously march towards Old Trafford. And then anybody who's got tickets to the game have been asked to stay outside the ground until the 18th minute, obviously for the 18 years that the Glazers have had control over the club. So a big push from the fans straight away in relation to, a full sale is really what everybody wants. And I think, what's annoying me more than anything else about this is the fact that I think if Jim Ratcliffe is to take over at Manchester United, he isn't going to be paying for Manchester United himself. He's going to be taking the debt off of Manchester United and loading it onto his company, Ineos. Now, for him to do that, he is getting backed by US investors, okay? I think JP Morgan has been mentioned and these kind of investors. Now, the only reason these types of organizations are looking to get involved with Jim Ratcliffe is to get a return on their investment. They don't want the best for Manchester United, okay? So basically what it feels to me is that if Jim Ratcliffe is successful, he takes the debt that the Glazers have, he loads that debt onto his company, but yet he's going to get himself into further debt by being financed by the likes of JP Morgan. It doesn't make sense to me. You're putting debt on top of debt. And that small 4-letter word sends shivers down the spine of every Manchester United fan who understands what Manchester United has been since the Glazers have taken over. And it's been debt. It's been nothing other than debt. It's been struggle. And, I think if there was a tipping point between people and fans debating whether they wanted Sir Jim Ratcliffe or whether they wanted Qatar and Al Thani to take over, if you were sitting on the fence for it, I think this is probably going to push people towards Qatar even more. Now again, look, we're going to have to wait and see in relation to, the legitimacy of these reports. But if they are any way to be suggested, we know that Jim Ratcliffe didn't want to come in and buy Manchester United outright. He couldn't afford it, you know. So he was always going to buy a majority stake, potentially buying the Glazers out. Now, the Glazers own 60%. If Jim Ratcliffe wants 50+%, that only leaves 10% for the Glazers. Now, if he's looking at giving them 10% each, that means 20%. He's going to have to buy another 10% or more off of other stakeholders. So it's getting complicated, and I think it's alienated the fans slightly away from Jim Ratcliffe, and this whole kind of, you know, the Manchester man, you know, keeping it local and keeping it within Manchester and wanting what's best for Manchester, keeping the Glazers on at Old Trafford in any capacity is not what's best for Manchester United. It really isn't. Let's see what people are saying here. Nick says, Glazers out means all out, I thought. Sounds like smoke to drive up the Qatar bid. Perhaps Sir Jim is part of their plan. Glazers PR in full swing. F them. Yeah, and that's a great point as well, Nick, I have to say. Liam says, I originally really wanted Jim. Now I'm not sure. And Oshin says, the way it'll go if Jim goes in is that we may have an initial splurge on players, infrastructure, etc. Then nothing for years, leaving Ten Hag and, more importantly, us as fans frustrated and pissed, to be honest. Yeah, I agree with you. I have to say, I really do, Oshin. And that's a great point there. You know, you do see an initial investment into Manchester United with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, but again, he's been backed by US-based hedge funds that are going to want to return on their investment. So that means dividends are coming out of the club every year. That means, you know, well, what are we doing? Where are we going? Where's the money coming from? So yeah, great point out of Oshin there. Let's see what people on TikTok are saying. Qatar or Jim, anything but what's there right now. Glazers are a disgrace. Damien says, no way I trust Jim after the news. We need new owners by the transfer window. Jock says, not looking good. Qatari ownership outright is the only way forward. Let's see. Jersey said, why Glazers out when they got every transfer that people wanted? You haven't a clue what you're talking about, Jersey. Sorry. Theo says, Chelsea season ticket holder to buy our club. I don't think so. Qatari 100%. So there we go. We can see instantly straight away that, you know, that the majority of people that are watching live now are mirroring what we're saying. They're saying, you know, the Jim Ratcliffe bid now is, in fans' eyes, is, I won't say dead in the water, but in relation to support from fans, it doesn't look to be good. It really doesn't. But yeah, look, I mean, it's something that I am really not in favour of, I have to say. I think it would be a horrendous decision. Again, the worrying part is that it's the Glazers' decision. It's the Glazers' decision, and that's the scary thing about it. So if the Glazers decide that they want to stay on, keep 10% each, keep taking dividends out of the club for the next 18 years on the back of having to do sweet F all, I mean, that sounds like a pretty decent prospect in their eyes, I would assume. Unless Qatar comes in and says, we want everything, we'll pay over the odds for it. I think if this report is to be believed, I think it's a pretty, you know, it's a pretty prospect for the Glazers. I really do. And that's the scary thing about it. It really is. But let's get on to some transfer news, guys. And obviously we're talking about, you know, the players Manchester United are being linked with. And of course, this is the main guy over the last couple of weeks. Man United have been linked with Harry Kane. And as we know, Eric Ten Hag declares his stance on the possibility of signing Harry Kane for Man United. Manchester United manager Eric Ten Hag has stated his admiration for Tottenham Hotspur striker Harry Kane. Now, these reports are reminding me so much of a game of Football Manager. You know, you declare your interest. You get a response from the club saying, no way, he's not for sale. You come out publicly and say, I have admiration for the player that I want to sign. You put in a bid, it's rejected. All of these little boxes are being checked. Now, I know we're talking about Football Manager in relation to real world scenarios, but I mean, Eric Ten Hag clearly is a big admirer of Harry Kane. He is, and I have a feeling we're going to go all out for him. I like the fact that we're dipping our toe in the water early in relation to feeling out what way Spurs are. Is there a chance of us getting him? Is there not? And as it says here, United are set to clash against Tottenham later today, with numerous reports indicating that Kane is Ten Hag's #1 target when the summer transfer window opens. The Dutchman was bound to be asked about the 29-year-old. And of course, look, it goes on further and says turbulence at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and the fact that Kane is set to become a free agent at the end of next season has given United an opening to swoop in for the England captain. So when Ten Hag was asked about him and what he likes about Kane, he said, first of all, the number of goals, also his key actions that come to goals, final passes is very well. He's a great player, a great personality as well. So, and then when asked to talk about the prospect of signing Kane and whether he'd fit in at Old Trafford, there was a glint in Ten Hag's eye and a traces of a grin. He replied, "I'm preparing my team for tomorrow for a game against Spurs. He is one of the players that we have to face, so I don't think anything about it." And these are all proper, these are all proper manager talk before, he's not my player. I can't really report on it, so on and so forth. So yeah, look, whether we get Harry Kane this summer is going to come down to Daniel Levy. You know what I mean? And Joe hits the nail on the head here perfectly. He says, Daniel Levy is going to play hardball, but Harry would be a great purchase for our club. I think it's probably going to have to come down to the fact that Harry Kane is going to have to look for a move away. And I think Daniel Levy is probably digging his heels in for that reason alone. He's come under a lot of slack in the last couple of weeks and months in relation to the Conte situation. His assistant coming in and subsequently getting sacked then as well. Now Ryan Mason taking over, and a lot of the pressure is being put on the board of Spurs and Daniel Levy. So I think his reputation is going to need as much reinforcing as possible. So I think he's waiting till the end of the season. He's going to dig his heels in and he's going to hope that Harry Kane comes out and publicly wants a move away, and then he can say, well, look, I tried my best, and then sell him. So it's going to be interesting to see. Let's see what people are saying here. Tonight will be the start of negotiations with Kane, says Oshin. We need number 9, yes, but let's not have a Frankie de Jong repeat. 2 bids max and move on. Time for United to play hardball too, absolutely. And I think that's, we're going to get onto some maybe second choice options as well in a moment. Katie says, hey Jack, I missed the start of my live. My son was home and well. Can you give me an update on the sale, etc.? So yeah, basically what we were saying, Katie, is that Sir Jim Ratcliffe, obviously, according to reports, is going to put in a bid that will potentially allow the Glazers to stay on. So we're just reporting what it was said. I think there's been a big backlash from fans, and I think it's going to be interesting. But it's certainly I suppose a decent prospect for the Glazers, to consider. Ratcliffe, a traitor, says Chris. Let's see, Glazers, just another ploy to get Al-Thani bid up. Reed Qatar bid very close. Yeah, so look, we'll know more as the days, and of course the deadline for the bid is 10 p.m. tomorrow night. So it's going to be a busy couple of days in relation to news coming in from that. But look, back onto Harry Kane, and of course it's going to be difficult to get a deal done for him. But Manchester United, of course, and I do think that Ten Hag is not going to want a repeat of the Frankie de Jong situation last summer. I think he's going to want to get as much business done as quickly as possible. And I think he'll probably have the deciding say in saying, well, look, okay, Kane is not happening. We can clearly see it's not happening. Let's move on. Now, if we are to move on, let's talk about this guy. Fabrizio Romano says Mohamed Kudus, his dream is to play in the Premier League. Now, of course, this is a guy that's been linked with Manchester United as well. He's had a very, very good season in the Eredivisie, playing for Ajax as well. And, let's go through the report here. Manchester United have been linked to, I think it's Kudus. I think that's how to pronounce it. In the past, with reports suggesting that Erik ten Hag is keen on a reunion with his former player. Now, we've seen how reunions with former players and Erik ten Hag has gone. It's gone relatively well. Anthony is starting to really improve week on week. Lisandro Martinez is a legend. So I think it bodes well. Now, it doesn't mean they can all come good, but, we can see here the Ghanaian came close to a move to the Premier League last summer with Everton coming close to securing his services. Now, I think the reason why that deal fell through is that Ajax kind of got cold feet given the fact that Anthony was gone, Martinez was gone. They lost another couple of players throughout the transfer window as well, so they didn't want to lose the majority of their squad. So yeah, I mean, and here we go. It says United's primary targets appear to be Harry Kane and Victor Osimhen. There is an acceptance that deals for Kane and Osimhen could prove difficult to get over the line. So basically, that's why United are feeling out these types of players. Obviously there was links with Ferguson. We know he signed a new contract. Muani has been linked with us as well. These types of players, Gonzalo Ramos from in Portugal there as well. So I think it's very important. I think Ten Hag is putting in the groundwork in relation to, having backup options, and I think that certainly is a good way of doing business. Chris says Gonzalo Ramos is second option. Højlund is another one there as well. Buyout clause, 60 million price tag. Kundus not a number 9, more a number 10. Yeah, I would agree with you on that one as well, Chris. But look, I mean, I think it's again, we go back to what we're saying. If the manager wants him, given how well he's done already in the transfer window, I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? I really am. Wayne is in and he says, Sir Rat. I know. Look. Let's not jump to too many conclusions. But if these reports are to be believed, Wayne, I agree with you, because none of us, I don't think there is a United fan on the face of the planet that wants the Glazers to remain in any way, shape or form. Katie says, most definitely he wouldn't want Kane to join another Premier League club. Yeah, and that's what we're talking about with Harry Kane as well, that, Daniel Levy reportedly would be looking for 80 million to sell Harry Kane if he's selling him to a foreign club. If he's selling him in England, it's going to be a minimum of 100 million, and he doesn't really want to sell him to a rival anyway. So Kane, there's going to be a head-to-head here. There really is. Kane wants to stay in England. He wants to stay in the Premier League because he is on course to beat Shearer's record. And of course, if you're the owner of a football club and your prized asset, you don't want to sell him to a rival club, and I think that would effectively, obviously, Manchester United are ahead of Spurs in the league table, but I suppose start of the season you were kind of saying Spurs top 4. I think if we beat them tonight, it's over. But I think if we get Harry Kane from Spurs, we automatically are levels above them. We're levels above them anyway, but I think we take that next step. So that's probably the reason why Daniel Levy is looking to, potentially sell him abroad, more so to a rival, and I don't think there is a club that he would go to in England outside of Manchester United, because we see what Haaland done last night. Liverpool, after spending 100 million last season on Andy Carroll, or what's his name? I think it's Andy Carroll, is it? No, it's Darwin Núñez, sorry. Chelsea need a striker. Is he going to go from Spurs to Chelsea? Probably not. He's not going to go to Arsenal. I don't think he would go to Newcastle, because I think he would have, obviously Harry Kane is coming, he hasn't got long left at the peak of his powers, maybe 3 seasons, 4 seasons most. He wants to win trophies. He would probably say to himself, I'll have a better chance of doing that at United. Chris says Levy would be smart to sell him early so Spurs can go and get a replacement. Yeah, and I've been watching a lot of maybe Spurs reaction to the links with Manchester United over the last days and weeks. And the kind of gist I'm getting from Spurs fans as well is that they want, if Harry Kane is going to be leaving, I think the majority of Spurs fans are resigned to the fact that he is going to go, whether it's this year or next year. They're kind of also putting the pressure on to say, look, if he's going to go, which he probably is, just get the deal done quickly in the summer so we can reinvest that money throughout the remainder of the summer and get a player in to replace him, rather than a deal happening 2 weeks before the start of the season. Doesn't benefit the club he's going to, and it doesn't benefit the club he's leaving either, So, yeah, I think you're spot on that one, Chris. Oshin says, United and Spurs are not rivals. We're in a different league altogether. Spurs link to top 6 is a great stadium. They have no real history. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you on that either, Oshin. I really wouldn't. Let's see. Ten Hag wants a big striker, flexible in the box. Let's see. We don't need Kane. Put Mason Greenwood. Not talking about Mason Greenwood. Let's see. But yeah, look, I mean, let's go from talking about potential players coming in to potential players going out for Manchester United. And this report is coming in today. Newcastle intensifies Scott McTominay interest as player tells Man United board he wants a transfer. Now, I don't know what truth there is behind this, but we know that Newcastle did inquire about Scott McTominay in January as a potential transfer. And obviously Eric Ten Hag vetoed it, given the fact that our squad is paper thin, basically. So I think I do expect Newcastle to come back in for him again. Let's see what it says here. Newcastle are stepping up their interest in Manchester United midfielder Scott McTominay. McTominay has been linked with Newcastle on multiple occasions in the past, and now the Toon are set to push harder when the summer transfer window opens. Eric Ten Hag has shown a clear preference for a midfield trio of Casemiro, Eriksen and Fernandes, which has meant that McTominay's game time has been significantly limited. The loan signing of Marcel Sabitzer also did not help McTominay's cause. According to Football Insider, McTominay conveyed his wish to leave to the United board if he falls further down the pecking order, a situation that is likely to arise with the Red Devils also in the market for a new midfielder. It also reports that Newcastle are pushing ahead with their pursuit of McTominay. Sources have told Football Insider McTominay is set to leave United in the summer and is attracting interest from multiple Premier League clubs. Now, multiple Premier League clubs, I think, is a very important line there in relation to this article. And I think the reason for that is that the more clubs you have in for a player, the more money you're potentially going to get for him. And I think that's a good thing, given the fact that we need reinforcements. We are obviously going into the second phase of the rebuild with Ten Hag. The first phase is after going really well on the back of some great signings last summer. And we want to continue the upward trend. And I think Scott McTominay is genuinely one of the players we can get some decent money for to reinvest into the squad. We don't want to go out and overspend in the summer without clearing out some of the deadwood, because FFP will come into play. It really will, on the back of last year's spend. So, like I said, you all know my opinions on Scott McTominay. Not his biggest fan. Love his heart and love his desire. That's absolutely commendable. He's not good enough for Manchester United. I think it's pretty clear, and I think the majority of United fans would agree. And I do think that this is a good opportunity for United to get some decent cash into the building and reinvest it into the squad. Oshin says, I'll drop Scott to the door if they like. Let's see. And no more McMuffin says, Chris. So yeah, look, let's see what people on TikTok are saying here. Let's see. They talk about United spending big money, but they rarely got their first choice, mostly Plan B signings, says Finn. And yeah, look, I mean, Scott McTominay is a player we can get some good money for in the summer. And another player that we could potentially get some good money for is this fella, the big man, Harry Maguire. And reports have suggested in the last 24 hours or so that those close to Harry Maguire insists that he wants to fight for his future at United and regain a starting spot. Let me put that full screen there so you can read it. Harry Maguire insists he wants to fight for his future at Manchester United and regain his starting spot? Why, Harry? Why? I mean, look, I don't get it. I don't get it. And this is coming from the Athletic, which is a very reputable outlet. So, look, I don't know. I mean, Harry is either very delusional or he is happy to sit on the bench and pick up a paycheck every week. It's one of two things with Harry Maguire here, I have to say. I think it's pretty obvious that he is falling down the pecking order, and he will continue to do so if we look at bringing in another defender in the summer. I think Victor Lindelof has jumped him in the queue now after his great performance in the semi-final of the FA Cup. We know that Ten Hag has favoured Luke Shaw ahead of him at centre-back at times this season. And I think the good game that both Lindelof and Shaw had together will probably mean that Harry is going to be sitting out some more games between now and the end of the season, even though he is one of two fit centre-backs. So Luke Shaw has been playing out of position rather than Harry Maguire actually getting a game. And the report goes on and says that, let me see, United are not pushing Maguire out of the club, and he is behind players such as currently on loan pair Eric Bailly and Alex Telles in the pecking order of who the club wants to get off the wage bill in the summer. So basically, Manchester United are not pushing him out the door, and I mean, they're going to let him make up his own mind, if you're kind of reading into that correctly. Does this mean that United are happy for him to stay as a backup option? I don't know. I would much prefer to get an up-and-coming 21, 22-year-old defender that you could offer 15 games a season to come in and rotate in and out of the team and give Varane a rest and give Martinez a rest to make sure that they're not, injured, and that you're not having to pull Luke Shaw out of position to play centre back, and you could bring in Lindelof on top of that as well. Look, I don't see a scenario. Well, I suppose that's not true. I was going to say I don't see a scenario where Harry Maguire stays this summer, but I can see a scenario technically when I think about it. He's under contract. United have given him a contract. He's the captain of the club. He's on good money. He's well entitled to say, "I'm not leaving. I'm not fucking leaving." And just stay where he is, so I wouldn't be surprised. But look, I think it would be best for all parties if Maguire is to, pack his bags and, as they say, jog on, son. Only 2 weeks ago, you were praising him. Was I? I will praise a player when he has a good game. Absolutely, I'll praise him when he has a good game. But I will never... A player having one good game doesn't mean... I could go and play beside Varane at the centre of defence and play a good game every now and again. But 99% of the time, I would be ripped to shreds. Harry. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Let's see. Best abs in football. Pity his ability isn't the level we need. Maguire is living in another world of self-confidence. Lad's bulletproof inside that head. Yeah, absolutely, Nick. And Oshin says, not enough ways to say, just go, Harry. We can't even say thanks for the memories. No, we can't. We really can't. We really can't. But look, I mean, let's see what happens. I think it's going to be an interesting summer. It really is, isn't it? But look, obviously we go back to what we were saying, at the start of the news feed, and obviously that the Glazers could retain Man United's stake under Jim Ratcliffe bid. It's what we don't want to see, and there's ways of getting involved in the protests as well on Sunday, guys. Even if you're not part of the crowd, you can go onto their website. I've actually had a look at it. There's some good information there of how you can get involved and things like that as well. So go check that out, the 1958 online, their official website. But yeah, look, I mean, it's going to be an interesting coming few days initially, obviously, with the bids due in by 10 p.m. Friday, and then of course in the coming weeks then as well with transfer updates. We're going to be keeping you up to date on everything throughout the coming days and weeks as well, guys. So if you're new to the channel, do hit the subscribe button. If you haven't already done so, hit the thumbs up button. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as well. And of course, we're going to be back tonight for the watch along at 7:45 on the channel. Huge game, Spurs versus Manchester United. I think if we can beat Spurs, I think that's top four pretty much wrapped up. Go check out my match preview as well. It was uploaded yesterday. If you haven't already done so, my predicted 11 and score predictions are up there as well. But I appreciate everybody watching, guys. Thanks for tuning in. And until tonight, take it easy.